was mostly successful. But let's look at some of the elements here. So the typical prompt engineering elements here, I classified a little bit differently from the video that we have watched. So the role play or persona, the task description, the context, the example, the input, and the output. So because sometimes you have some input format and you want to tell that to the large language model. For the video that you watched on YouTube, it has an additional one about tone, right? So about the tone of the output. But I think that's either a task description or an output. So I don't classify it that way. But here, let's take a look at this. So first, task description. It has to be specific, right? So we have unclear. So here we have these 5 questions already. What I added was the answer should be yes or no. The answer should be a number between 0 and 1, this type of instructions, so that the large language model will understand what's the required output and give that to me. And here, what you are looking at here is I provided several examples, but these examples are not for the task itself. It's more about the output, right? Because I want the output to be in JSON format. And sometimes when there is a person, I want all the other attributes. But when there is no person, we just have person no, right? So the format will be different. So I was providing a few examples to the large language model so that it will understand and then follow the instructions here. So as you can see, I highlighted 3 elements here: the task description, the example, and the output in this one. For others, context, not so much. Role play persona, not so much. Input, not so much for this one. Maybe input, like there's an image, but that's pretty much what I did with this task. Okay, so these 3. Now let's look at a role play persona example. So here is a example of me writing the database exam last year. So for some of you who have taken my database class, you might have seen some of the output of this exercise. So I was writing this database exam. I don't have a previous one to copy from. So I was like, it will take me one day to write it carefully, everything. So I started to work with ChatGPT, and specifically is Professor Synapse prompt. You can find it on GitHub. It's a pretty good one that will, it's just a system instruction, a system prompt that will change how ChatGPT behaves. An important one is it will summon specific roles to do the work for you. So for example, here, what I was trying to do is asking it to write 5 short answer questions for views, normalization, SQL optimization, the ER model, and SQL queries for the undergraduate students. And what it does here, if you look at this one, it will say, I am an expert in database management and education. I understand the importance of covering all these concepts. I will create insightful and challenging short answer questions for undergraduate students. So this is all automatic. So when you interact with Professor Synapse, it will create all these like in the middle steps, the roles, the steps, and then it will walk you through these steps one by one. So what's the outcome of this? I did this in 2 to 3 hours instead of a whole day writing all of this. So the questions that were generated were okay, but not great. So I have to make some modifications, but it's already much better than I have to write everything from scratch. So like at least in teaching, that has been working. But here is a very good example of a role play persona. So anything you ask Professor Synapse to do, it will try to summon an expert in that area and use that expert to help you. Any questions? Okay, let's continue. So another one is about context, right? So we have talked about role play, task description, example, output. Now, context. So for example, here is one prompt: draw rolling moon in space surrounded by rocks. And it will draw any of these engines will try to draw a moon in space, some surrounded by rocks. But what the user was trying to do is to uh, draw the rolling moon in Pokemon. Okay, so that's the character from the game, and once the users start to provide the context, then those engines will be able to draw the character surrounded by like rocks here in the space. So context is also very important for the large language model to follow your instruction. Okay, so now let's put our knowledge into use right away. Here I have a quick clicker question.